Pastor, do you have status or stature in your community? I'm Dr. A, and welcome to this week's Hosea International Speaks. Last week, we left off at the second of four steps in what it would take to be a governing ecclesia, a governing church. We said, firstly, that a governing church must have global mentality. That is, you must think just past your city. You must think globally. Some use the term glocal, which is globally and locally at the same time. That's where your mindset should be. Secondly, we looked at what a governing church should be. A governing church is an epicenter designed to plan and implement strategies. And with that means you might need to get some plans in place. You might need to start praying to the Lord to find out what it will take to win your city. Now you say, well, I already won my city. What about the city next door? In other words, you're thinking now globally. In other words, you're going past the boundaries of your own church. Third step, in order to have a governing church, is your church must be a hub of divine activity and Yahweh invasion. It must invade the societies of the city at each level or culture without being contaminated by the area that's being invaded. That is, it must go into all 7 areas of culture. Religion, that means your pastors and religious instructors need to go ahead and win that area. Arts and entertainment, that is, if anybody in your church are actors or directors. In other words, just don't leave acting and directing to your Christmas or Easter programs. Well, let's get out there into the world and influence those areas. How about business? How about owners who own that warehouse, or that owner who owns the hardware, or the owner who owns the plumbing or electrical or construction business? How about them influencing their area? What about government? Do you have someone who's interested in going into the field of politics? Are you influencing them to do so and still remain untouched by Washington, or even by the capital of your state, if they want to go on a state basis? One who wants to go on a federal or national, but obviously their headquarters would be set in Washington. How about family? Counselors and psychologists for families. How about the media business? In other words, filming industry, photography, editing, things like that. Can you influence your area without being contaminated? How about the education area? Teachers, principals, counselors, parents who have influence on the school boards of their city or even at the state level. This is what we're talking about, influencing the area in which we work and which we every day think about. When Yahweh desires to come into a city, he will use that church to come through, because that governing church is the doorway or entrance point of heaven. Yahweh moves out from his holy hill and invades the territory of the enemy, which the enemy should have never had in the first place. Psalm 110:2 says this: the Lord Yahweh will stretch forth your strong scepter from Zion, saying, rule in the midst of your enemies. That's what you're supposed to do, Pastor. Rule in the midst of your enemies. Now, the fourth area we want to look at in a governing church is the prevailing position of stature, to rule in the heavens. Do you know that there's 3 heavens? the immediate one right here on the earth. We got the second heaven where Satan and his cohorts abide. And then we have the heavenly one where Christ and Father, Son, Holy Spirit all abides with the angels. We have to move them out of the second heaven, move them out of our area, move them out of the heavens that are surrounding our cities. That's the area that we must be dominating. A governing church exercises dominion in her territory, policing the heavens and keeping it spiritually conducive for Holy Spirit's movement in and around the region. This position of stature, now let me just say this, not status, these are two different things, subdues interferences of evil spirits in the territory and removes them from the city. This type of mindset is going to need discernment. 1 Samuel 7:13-14 says this, so the Philistines were subdued and they did not come anymore within the border of Israel, and the hand of Yahweh was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. The cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel were restored to Israel from Ekron even to Gath, and Israel delivered their territory from the hands of the Philistines. So there was peace. This stature gives the church the power to influence the city in every field. They have the experience to match in their city. Their businessmen have a cutting edge over others in the city. Their youth makes a dynamic difference in the schools they represent. Do we have that in our young people? To go into the high school and change the atmosphere where they go to school. Their members are head and shoulders above the rest by virtue of being part of your house with spiritual stature and dominion. Note again, the church will have stature, not status. Status is the standing you have in the community, but stature is the standing you have in the spirit realm, in the heavenlies. Well, next week, we're going to look at the nuts and bolts of a governing church, a governing ecclesia. Well, and if you enjoyed this week, just go ahead and hit the like button. And now would be a good time to subscribe. You can contact me also at either of the email addresses that are coming up on the screen, Hosea International at yahoo.com or Hosea Speaks at gmail.com. And you can give by scanning any of the QR codes on your screen right there. Well, I'm Dr. Ray, and I'll see you next week on Hosea International Speaks.